Okay, everyone. Let's continue with Chapter 7, How Allah Killed Science, according to Robert Spencer. Then he goes on to talk about what happened to the Golden Age of Islam. And, let's see here. He gives a lot of, let's see how I can sum this up. He goes on to insult more of the Islamic, basically the famous Muslim thinkers. But the irony here is that he also starts attacking. He tries to build an argument against why suddenly the great flourishing enlightenment of the Islamic world came to a halt. And what he claims is that there were two camps in the Islamic Empire. There was basically the Sufi named Ghazali, who he quotes explicitly, and he also talks about the actual Muslim philosophers. And he creates this very fictional sort of mini war that was happening in the Islamic Empire between what he calls the Sufi spiritualists, or spiritual philosophers, and the actual, mathematical philosophers and other thinkers of Islam. And he tries to say that basically you had these two extremes. Well, he's only quoting Ghazali, who very well might have been thinking outside of the spiritual realm. Ghazali was very much a spiritualist. He believed that all you needed was religion. So you have someone like that, who Spencer is quoting over and over again, and he tries to paint the picture that there were many Muslims who disagreed with this. But and then he also blames the Quran. He says the Quran does not allow Muslims to get outside of the box, to think for themselves. And I would like Mr. Spencer to provide us with one verse from the Quran that says, where God in the Quran says anywhere, don't think for yourselves, do not enhance your research or your knowledge, don't do anything like that, just stay with blind faith. And do not advance in any medical field. I would like him, basically, show me one verse in the Quran where God in the Quran basically condemns what people like Avaris were doing. But that's what he tries to paint in this section here. Ghazali's attacks on the thinkers. But the problem is, there are many hadiths from the Prophet Muhammad who that quote that you should always seek knowledge. And if anyone's interested, I can make a continuation video to this and quote you a whole bunch of hadiths where he says, knowledge, teach, always be learning and teaching. The Prophet Muhammad never said, and the Quran never says, just stay dumb. Don't expand your minds, as Mr. Spencer tries to say. And again, he goes on to blame the Quran for these things and things like this. He seems to try and paint the picture that Christianity was always open to free thinkers, which we know is not true, according to history, whether it's politically incorrect or not. There were tons of persecutions. All the Enlightenment thinkers, for the most part, were condemned. Galileo imprisoned, things like this. So for him to try and say that Islam is not accommodating to free thinkers, but Christianity is a fallacy on his part. He's overgeneralizing both groups. He finally ends the entire chapter with thanking the reason why Islam can be thanked is that Christopher Columbus was forced to sail the path he chose because he couldn't use his original path to discover the Americas, because Islam dominated that area of the world. I would love him to show where he's getting that source from. He doesn't cite any source anywhere from what I can see. I'm actually looking at the book right now, and I cannot find where. He usually has these little footnotes to go in the back and see where he's getting his sources, and I don't see that anywhere. I don't see anywhere he gives any source for that. But then he does give credit to the fact that that the Greeks, just these ridiculous statements. He basically says so he says, of course, but both of these aren't really Islamic achievements. They are consequences of the applications of the violent doctrines of Islam we explored earlier, which I debunked. I'll finish his sentence for him. Basically, he says the real, basically, the whole stack of Islamic philosophical treatises and a boatload of calligraphy is the only thing that Islam has to offer in the entire history of Islamic empires. Really showing his ignorance here. So, that is basically the end of the chapter. Again, I'll repeat, the reason why it's taken me so long to make these videos is because Mr. Spencer is running out of ideas, and frankly, I laugh at every time I see his arguments. I can't take him seriously anymore. So, not that I really could before, but at least the first 5 chapters were a challenge to look up the sources, and this is basically me, you know, looking through the pages and going, that's a fallacy, that's a fallacy. But I don't mean to sound egotistical, I'm just being honest. This is basically just being sort of a reluctant continuation. But I'm glad I'm doing it now. So next time I'll finish this off. But I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you see how he's running out of ideas in his book. I mean, as I said in the first video, I debunked him in the first video, the first page. You could have just closed the book, stopped there, because I exposed how he was lying in the first chapter alone. But we'll continue and see how worse this book really gets. So thank you, everyone, and I hope, like I said, if you need any of the references I've mentioned vaguely, by all means message me or comment and say, yes, can you supply these hadiths or things like this? I'd be more than happy to, because I know that I've heard Muslims on Stickam talking about this very subject, that the Prophet Muhammad said, always expand your knowledge, do not stay ignorant. Which I think is what Robert Spencer's theme is, staying ignorant and not doing your own research. So, peace be with you all, and I will see you later. Thank you.